What if your spiritual leader, the one you revered and obeyed without question, turned out to be your worst nightmare? Today, we delve into a story of betrayal, control, and the dark side of absolute power.
In the secluded corners of the American Southwest lies the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints, or FLDS, a sect that splintered from mainstream Mormonism to uphold radical practices long abandoned by others. At the heart of this community stood Warren Jeffs, who would rise to infamy as a prophet who manipulated faith for power and terror. Founded in the early 20th century, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or FLDS, seceded from the Mormon Church due to a profound disagreement over polygamy. While mainstream Mormonism renounced the practice in 1890 to comply with U.S. law, the FLDS continued to embrace it along with other controversial doctrines. Isolated from modern societal influences, the FLDS established itself in remote enclaves across Utah, Arizona, and parts of Canada. Governed by a strict patriarchal order, this sect not only practices polygamy but also enforces a rigid lifestyle devoid of most modern conveniences, purportedly to keep its members pure and obedient. Into this tightly controlled environment was born Warren Steed Jeffs in 1955. Raised in the FLDS stronghold of Hilldale, Utah, Warren was groomed from a young age to succeed his father, Rulon Jeffs, as the spiritual leader of this secluded community. His rise to power would mark the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in the history of the FLDS. Warren Jeffs' early life was steeped in the teachings and traditions of the FLDS. Born the son of Rulon Jeffs, who was the sex prophet at the time, Warren was exposed from a very young age to the absolute authority wielded by the leader of the FLDS. This environment, where religious power was linked directly to family lineage, set the stage for his future rule. Even as a child, Warren exhibited a keen understanding of the dynamics of power and control. He was known to manipulate situations to his advantage, displaying traits that would later define his leadership style. Educated in the community's private school system, he was insulated from external influences, deeply ingraining the sect's radical beliefs and practices in his psyche. By his teens, Warren had begun taking on significant responsibilities within the FLDS, often teaching classes and delivering sermons. His capacity for manipulation grew as he learned to exploit the faith and trust placed in him by the community. This grooming for leadership under the direct tutelage of his father prepared him to take on the role of prophet seamlessly, reinforcing a dangerous blend of religious fervor and autocratic control. Warren Jeffs, as the leader of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints FLDS, wielded his authority with an iron grip, committing widespread abuses that had lasting impacts on the community. His leadership style was distinctly authoritarian, marked by a systematic use of religious indoctrination to consolidate power and control over the FLDS members. Abuses and control mechanisms. Jeffs enforced strict behavioral codes within the FLDS that dictated virtually every aspect of personal and communal life. This control extended to arranging and forcing marriages, often involving underage girls and adult men, thereby perpetuating a cycle of abuse and domination. These marriages were not only tools for sexual exploitation, but also mechanisms for reinforcing loyalty among his followers, as these arrangements often linked families directly to his leadership. Psychological manipulation. Jeffs exploited his role as a prophet to manipulate his followers, claiming divine justification for his actions. This manipulation was crucial in maintaining compliance, as dissent was framed as defiance against divine will. He used fear as a controlling mechanism, often preaching about severe consequences for disobedience, both in this life and the afterlife. Impact on women and children. Women in the FLDS under Jeff's rule faced severe oppression. They were stripped of autonomy, required to adhere to strict dress codes, and confined to roles that centered around subservience and childbearing. The psychological toll included depression, anxiety, and a lack of self worth stemming from their systemic subjugation. Children were also severely affected. Educated within the community's private school system, their curriculum was heavily censored by Jeffs, focusing on religious indoctrination and obedience to his authority. This limited their worldview, denied them a comprehensive education, and ingrained a deep fear of the outside world, inhibiting their ability to critically evaluate their circumstances or consider alternatives to their way of life. Long-term consequences. The legacy of Jeff's rule is a community grappling with the aftermath of systemic abuse, broken families, and psychological scars. Many former members struggle with integration into wider society due to educational deficits and lingering trauma. The social structure Jeffs established still influences the FLDS, even with Jeffs in prison, as his teachings and some of his practices continue to affect generations. Legal interventions, arrests, and trials. Warren Jeffs' rule began to unravel when legal authorities intensified their scrutiny of the FLDS's practices, prompted by allegations of sexual abuse and underage marriages. The tipping point came in 2005 when Jeffs was charged with sexual assault and accessory to rape. This led to his placement on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list, catapulting the case into the national spotlight. In 2006, after a year on the run, Jeffs was arrested during a traffic stop outside Las Vegas, Nevada. This marked a significant breakthrough in law enforcement's efforts to address the criminal activities within the FLDS. Following his arrest, Jeffs faced multiple trials across several states. In 2007, he was convicted in Utah for being an accomplice to rape, for which he received a life sentence, though this was later overturned on appeal. He faced further charges in Texas, where in 2011 he was convicted on 2 counts of child sexual assault and received a sentence of life plus 20 years. Public and media reaction. The public and media reaction to the revelations about the FLDS and Warren Jeffs was one of shock and outrage. Media coverage was extensive, with major networks and newspapers covering the trials and the conditions within the FLDS communities. Documentaries and news specials delved into the secretive world of the FLDS, highlighting the plight of its victims and the challenges faced by law enforcement. The coverage helped to raise public awareness about the issues of forced marriage and abuse in religious sects, sparking debates about religious freedom and child protection laws. The intense media spotlight also increased pressure on political and legal systems to take more decisive action against similar abuses in other closed communities. Overall, the legal interventions brought some measure of justice to the victims of the FLDS and highlighted the need for vigilance and stricter enforcement of laws protecting vulnerable populations within closed groups. Warren Jeffs' downfall came when he was captured in August 2006 after being on the FBI's Most Wanted list. This capture ended his year-long fugitive status, which began shortly after he was initially charged. Jeffs was arrested during a routine traffic stop near Las Vegas, found in possession of numerous cell phones, laptops, and disguises, illustrating his attempts to evade capture. His trials were significant media events, leading to his conviction on charges including sexual assault of a child and accomplice to rape. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years, effectively marking the end of his direct control over the FLDS. The impact on the FLDS was profound. Jeff's imprisonment led to leadership vacuums and power struggles within the sect. While some members have left, others continue to follow his teachings, indicating the deep-rooted influence he still holds. The community has been under constant scrutiny and has faced various legal challenges, including child custody cases and property disputes, as they attempt to navigate life without their prophet's direct guidance. Reflecting on the story of Warren Jeffs and the FLDS, we see a tale of manipulation and control, but also one of resilience and courage. The survivors of his regime have shown remarkable strength in overcoming the trauma of their past, working to rebuild their lives and help others who have escaped from similar oppressive environments. If this deep dive into the hidden corners of true crime stories has captured your interest, don't forget to subscribe and like. Your support helps us bring more stories like this into the light. Share your thoughts in the comments below and join us next time for another exploration of truth and justice in the shadows of society.